rebuilding confidence, and harmonizing with nature. With over 4 decades of changing lives, your self-discovery archaeologist, get ready to be the best of you with your host, Beverly Zymet.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Beverly Zymet Show, where being the best you has just gotten easier. My guest today is calling in from LA, Tam, I'm going to say this right, Luc?
Luck? Yeah.
All right! Okay, Tam. It's so great to have you here. It's an honor to have you on the show today to talk about what you do out there in California and how everything crazy in the world has gotten and how that's impacted your life maybe, and what you're doing to make a difference in the world, because of course the theme of our show is being that best you that you can be. And I know some of the things that you do are so great that I really would love to have you share with our audience so that they can start really putting into practice some of the things that you're going to share here today.
Yeah, so, I am a coach, and I've been an entrepreneur for a very long time. My parents were entrepreneurs. That's what I learned as a young child. But I also was in corporate America because, when you go to college, you get a degree in marketing, you end up in corporate America.
Yeah, that's usually just kind of the pattern. That's for
That's
sure.
what happened. So yeah, I was in corporate. I was in commercial real estate. I worked in marketing. And then I moved on to operations, ran a couple of offices. But at the same time, I was always a side hustling entrepreneur, trying to figure out how I can be a full-time entrepreneur. My parents did that in the 80s. They made 6 figures. I thought, they didn't even have a degree. And I wanted to have the kind of freedom they had. They traveled a lot. They were always together. And I thought that just seemed like the kind of lifestyle I wanted. Now, I know that not everyone has the dream of being an entrepreneur, and shoot, entrepreneur is even hard to say.
It's a big word, isn't it?
Yeah, figure out how to spell it even.
Oh my gosh, it took me a while. How many R's and U's and which way does it go?
It's the E before the I before the U. I know, it's a mess. But I, this is something I always wanted, because entrepreneurship to me meant freedom. And that's like my biggest thing, being able to do what I want to do when I want to do it. And so that's what I always was striving for. And I also saw, because my mom, who left my biological dad at 3 years old, and she had 3 little kids, which is, I can't even imagine how she did it. But she went on to start her own business, buy her own home, get remarried, went on to, like I said, make a 6-figure business. So I thought entrepreneurship would be perfect for women, because I watched her be flexible. She started her hair salon at home. She was home with us kids. So I thought if I could just have that lifestyle, have a flexibility to be home with my son, spend time with my husband, it'd be perfect. And it wasn't easy to figure out, but that's what I finally did. And now I help women primarily. That's my number one focus. Help them to build their business to 6 and 7 figures based on how I've done it. And the way I did it was, first of all, I figured out what my message was, and I learned how to monetize that message. So a lot of my clients end up being coaches. Some of them are just big influencers who have a message, or they have a group of people they are influencing.
Right.
And if you're not at 6 figures, once you work with me, I have a very clear system on how to make that happen. So that's kind of what I do in a nutshell. Monetizing your message a lot of times looks like creating your best-selling book, because you figure out your messages, and then I can help you to create a book and use that book and all the legs and all the pieces to that, and show you exactly how I got to 6 figures from my very first book.
Oh, that's amazing. And I know a lot of authors that are out there, including myself, that haven't got the volume of books out there that we've wanted.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's working on getting that out there, and to be able to go from start to finish and really make that work for you, because a book is more like what they say, like your calling card.
Yeah.
Right? Because, you get a business card, what happens? A lot of times it gets lost in the shuffle, it gets thrown away. You might find it 6 months later and look at it and try to figure out,
Who was that?
what was I supposed to do?
When I met that person?
Exactly. But, people never throw a book away. It may be on their shelf like forever. Someday they may read it, but then again, they might pass it on to someone else, right?
Yeah.
But that book kind of stays there. And if they do want to know more about you, if your name comes across as 6 months later, a year later, or whatever the case, they'll say, I think I got one of her books.
I think I got one of her books. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a trip. It's a trip, I tell you, and you will just go in just a little further than that business card.
Right.
If nothing else, you just have a business. Okay, that's really cool. You wrote a book. And then later on, it comes back up. And if you're doing what you are meant to do,
Mm-hmm.
if you are continuing to market, continuing to get out there, continuing to speak and share your message, you're going to come back around. This world is only so big. Your market is only so big. So you're going to come back around and like, oh, wait, I met that lady. She was speaking at this one place and she had a book. And I think I even got that book.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy how small the world really is when, people start crossing your paths in areas that you're like, oh my gosh. I mean, I've had people now coming out of my past that I haven't seen or spoken with, and I want to say maybe 4, 5, 6 years, and all of a sudden it's like they're all coming out of the woodwork for some reason, right?
Right.
And so it's really kind of interesting. I actually, oh my gosh, this was such a great fun surprise. I had a guest on my show, and we started talking about essential oils.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And that was her expertise arena that she was getting into. And I said, I wrote a book on essential oils, right? And she goes, you did? What's the name of it? And I told her, she goes, oh, I got that book.
I got
right?
that book. Isn't that cool? That's so cool.
Yeah. And then I had other people that came on my show that had been following me since the 80s.
Wow.
I come around, didn't know what happened to me because I kind of like fell off the planet or something. And then all of a sudden they started seeing me through the show.
Yeah.
And reached out. It's like, oh my gosh. I mean, I'll tell you how old this was. It was when cassette tapes were still around.
Wow.
I know. She goes, I have some of your cassette tapes. And it's like, no way. And she showed them to me. I'm like, oh my gosh.
But like, if you didn't have that, if you never had that platform or those cassette tapes,
right,
they wouldn't have stuck.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting how long that it can be. I mean, we look from here we are in 2020, and this was back in the 80s, and some of it in the 90s. Wow, it's amazing. So people don't throw away something that you've left as a legacy, so to speak, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Right. And so what really intrigued me about your program was that you were going to teach everyone how they can take that book and really, like you said, monetize it without even like struggling, to where it helps you get on stages. And I have to say the book has opened a lot of doors for me. Yeah. But not in the caliber that I was looking for. And again, it's a who you know world, right?
Yep.
So
it's interesting because, I was literally just talking to someone about how to move 500 books in a day.
Right.
Okay. And the average person only moves 250 books in their. The average self-published author only moves 250 books in a lifetime of that book. And that's like, whoa, I can show you how to move 500 books in a day.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
And when you think about it, I thought, well, if they don't know this, because it's a lot of work to write a book. You're writing, you're thinking, the end product is the book. And I remember thinking that my goal is to publish a book, but that really is not your goal. That's the very beginning of your goal. And the marketing and all of the ideas and the strategy around the book, that when you get to the book being published, you probably missed about 50 parts to your strategy before that book came out. So, it really starts early, but because we're focusing on getting the book done, we miss all those stops. So that's one of the things I teach people. I have 100 different ways to make money from a book.
That's amazing.
A lot of times don't even pay attention to.
Right.
I did a webinar. I think you were on my webinar.
Yes, I was. It totally fascinated me. I'm like, oh my gosh, some of the things, I've got a really creative mind, okay? But some of the stuff you were coming up with blew me out of the water. I'm like, oh my gosh, I never would have thought of that. It's like, maybe I better pay attention here. This girl knows something, and it's always great learning new things. It just really is. Yeah.
I agree. My mind was blown because I've always loved to write. But I went to college for marketing, and I was always writing for my whole life. I have tons and tons and tons of content that I have never even published, believe me.
Oh, I do too. When I look at it, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, and it's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah.
But when the reality around what a book can do for you, I think someone asked that question. Well, what do you want this book to do for you? Once I heard that question, what do I want this book to do for me? Well, I never considered that. I was only thinking about what will this book do for other people.
Right.
Well, that's how we think, right? Oh, this is going to really help them to XYZ, whatever the topic of the book is. But no, what about the other part? What do you want the book to do for you? Then my mind was blown. Right. Because I want to become a TV star. I want to become an influencer. I want to travel the world. I want to be on the newspaper. I want to have credibility. I want to influence others. I want to travel at my own discretion. I want to give money to my favorite organization. Once you get done writing down your list of 100 things possibly that you wanted this book to do for you, you realize that you're missing the boat. Because if that's what you want the book to do for you, then how many things can you use the book for?
Right.
Oh my goodness. That's when my brain just exploded.
Right.
I've done retreats off of my book. I've created a course from my book. There's a lot of things.
That's what I want to ask you. That you're talking about promoting, your book, right? Mm-hmm. And this is what I'm in the process of doing right now, is taking my book and turning it into a course, because you can get anywhere from say $15 to $25 for your book, but when you create a course, an online course, you can get $500 to $1,500 for that same element. Then if you turn it into, like you say, a workshop or a retreat, now you're talking $2,500 and up, right?
That's right. Same content.
Yeah.
Same content. One of my coaches, big coaches, very expensive coach, she says, don't change your content, basically change your audience. Don't change what was it? I can't remember the word she used, but basically it's the same information in the book, in the course, in the retreat, in the high level program. You want to work with me one-on-one. Somebody might say, okay, I want to work with you one-on-one at $18,000, which I have paid my coach. But I can also find basically the same information in her $20 book.
Right.
So what is it? It's level of intimacy at that point.
Right, and I think a lot of it too is more than just the level of intimacy, which is there, but it also takes you diving deeper
into your specific situation.
Exactly, because it becomes, like you said, personal. Now it's that one-on-one that takes you into that level of where it is that you want to be. Like this, the work in my book is around being your identity. So I help you become your own identity archaeologist, right? And finding the things that you're not, so that you can really start to see the inner workings of who you are. And that's right. That comes each step of that way. And then when you do reach that one-on-one, it's in a group, it keeps getting deeper, but that one-on-one, now it gets down and dirty, right?
It's down and dirty. And it's almost like, you go to Tony Robbins, so you can go and sit in the seats, the regular seats, for $600 at a Tony Robbins. Remember, I think it was here last year or 2 years ago. Or you can go all the way onto the stage and go back, go right up front for $150,000. Same room, same content,
right?
A little closer.
Yeah. It's that song, right? Come a little bit closer.
Come a little bit closer. That's right. So that's how a book works. If you want to think, how many ways can you use this book? Not just turning the contents in the book into stuff, but the physical book. How many ways can you use this physical book to lead them to other things too?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the fascinating. That's the $1 million question, right?
That's right.
Right. And oh my gosh, I can remember the struggles I had with my first book. It's like, okay, because I wanted to do it, and I sat down and I started doing it, right? And I was in a locale where I didn't have to concern myself with anything around me. I just wrote every day. And sometimes I was up, almost like 24 hours around the clock. And the content and everything just kept going and going and going. And it's like, I'm never going to finish this thing, right? Because it just you keep adding more. And it's like, okay, something's got to change here. What am I missing? And then next morning I woke up and I heard this voice say, Beverly, you're not writing an encyclopedia. And it's like, ding, 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 ding. And it's like, okay, how many books do you have here?
Right. I've done it before.
Before.
I was writing my butt off on one of those books, and I finally go, wait, I'm giving way too much information. They're going to be confused. So I chopped it in half.
Yeah. Oh, I chopped mine more down in half. I think I have like 4 books out of that, right? It's like, okay, this is information that I've learned over a lifetime, and I'm trying to dump it into one book. Right. Like you said, people get totally confused. So then I had to segment and separate, and I got it down into 12 chapters, got it down into 250 pages, right? And it's like, yes, now I feel good about this, right?
Now you feel good. That's right.
Yeah. So, and then, you know what, after all of that, and I got it all laid out, got it to the publisher, and that following weekend, after I pushed the button go, I was invited to a 3-day weekend course on how to write a book in a weekend. I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me?
Right.
So I actually did go to the course, and I really got some great tips on that. And it's like, okay, so the next book I wrote, I'm telling you, it didn't take me 3.5 months.
That's right.
You know, yeah.
You can get it done quick if you know the tricks.
There's certain steps that you can take, and again, it's not how thick that book is and the content that's in it is, it's got to be relevant. And it's better to write a bunch of smaller books than it is to write an encyclopedia, right?
True. So true.
Yeah. So when you're talking about courses and you're talking about the book, do you market your courses, that go with the book, like the online course, or even if it's a live course, do you market that in the same perspective as you do a book? Or is there other techniques?
It depends. There's so many different techniques. I did one. So my first book was called A Woman's Side Hustle. And so I was using that book, and I was really focusing on women. At the time, I had an avatar. Her name was Lenka. And she basically was a side hustler. She had a regular corporate job. She was side hustling. Or someone who wanted to be a Lenka. She was a woman who had a job, and she wanted to figure out how to get out of that job. So she was using side hustling to get out. So my book was all kinds of ideas on how to make that happen, based on my own experience, based on stuff I've researched. So that woman, that book connected me to that woman. that woman was who I was bringing to my retreats. That woman who also became my one-on-one clients, and that woman who also became, they also wrote books. So there was no course at the first. I was just one-on-one retreats. Da da da. The next year, I thought, okay, I want to figure out how I can find the Lankas. Okay, so I created a course called the Hustle Launch Challenge.
Oh,
right?
interesting.
So that was for women who were very new. It was a low-cost entry because at that stage in the game, people do not have enough confidence in themselves to pay the $2,000. Right? There's a level of confidence that goes along with the amount of money you pay, I've learned.
Right.
And so at that level, they're not confident. They're getting cheap courses or they're getting free courses. Okay. Until they get their confidence up. So this was a low cost $49 course. And I got a bunch of people into that course. And it was a 30-day course. And every single day we had something else. And great course, It was either 49 or it might have been 97. I can't remember. But it wasn't like you buy the book and then you buy the course, but it was based on the principles that I was teaching from that book, dissected down to a course where to help them to actually launch something and stop talking about launching something.
That's the key right there. Talking about it or taking action and doing something, right?
And then I also, once I made that kind of an evergreen course, I had it attached the book to the book. So then I started doing a lot of ads and advertising to the book. And then the tripwire, the second step was the low cost course, right? So they bought the book, but oh wait, don't go. Here's your last chance to get this low cost course. It'll help you to actually do the stuff that's in the book. So I've done that as well. So it depends on what your strategy is about it. It doesn't have to be linked. My next book was something totally different. It was me and my husband wrote that book. And I've also had, I have one client who wrote a book called The Power of Color. And then right from that, we created a course for, I think that course was maybe $197 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the next same information, basically now she also had another piece where you can work one-on-one with her.
Okay.
So yeah, it depends.
Yeah, there's just, the more you start delving into that and talking about it, it's like the possibilities are totally endless, right?
They really are endless. And I tell you, one of the things that I've been blessed with is ideas. I have two things that I'm every single day grateful for. More than two things, but these particular ones I'll bring up. I've been blessed with ideas ever since I was a kid. They come often. They're all good.
That's a good thing.
As far as I'm concerned, they're all good. And they come often. And so because they come often, I usually are I dismiss a lot of things. I give away a lot of ideas because they just come very often.
Right.
The other thing I'm blessed with is the art of getting shit done. So because I have those two things going for me, is I am very good at getting shit done. I won't just have an idea and then just procrastinate on it or let it flow by. So that's one of the things I do with coaching is I'll help people come up with the idea and I help them get it done so that they're not overwhelmed by the whole process. No, let's do this. We can do it. I've seen it done, or I just made it up and I know it can happen. That kind of stuff. Which is usually what's happening. It literally just came, thankfully. Some angel was right there whispering in my ear, and I was like, that's a good idea. I love that.
Okay, who can I try it out? And,
who can I give this to? Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and that is an asset, and I agree with you. Mine aren't quite like your ideas are, but I've got some similar type assets where people can start talking about something, right?
Yeah.
And share what they're thinking about their ideas, but they don't know where to take them. My cogs start working. It's well, have you ever tried to do this or take it in that direction or go that direction? Yeah. And they're like, oh my gosh, how'd you come up with that? And it's
Yeah.
like, it just happens. So there are those assets, and I think each and every one of us has those.
Yeah.
It's just that we
Of
need to
course.
pay attention to it,
That's
and
right.
and not be afraid to speak it, right?
That's right.
Right. And we look at what's going on here. I mean, I've been in this industry for a really long time, but to watch each decade shift and where it goes.
Yes.
And right now, I would say, at least in these last 10 years, the empowerment of women and the voice that
yes.
women have taken over this last decade has just continuously explode almost on a daily basis.
Yes.
And you look at the mess that the world's in right now with this COVID thing and the isolation and the separation and everything, which I think has really brought a lot of people together. Some of them have distance even more. We live in the duality world, so you're going to have both sides, right?
Yes.
But when you start really looking at that from that perspective of where people come together, right, and unite again and really start supporting each other.
Yes.
And so the women empowerment movement that has been going on over this last decade, for me, what I have seen just totally evolve, a million times over almost every week, with different summits that are on there and just different talking programs and the voice that women are speaking out. One of the hot topics in the news is abuse, right?
Oh, yeah.
Domestic violence. It's like all of a sudden here in the last, I would say the last month, I have had more speakers coming to me. I've had more interaction with, I've been asked to be on different summits around, that violence. And all of a sudden I'm having more speakers on my show that are speaking out on it.
Yeah.
And, it's like, where are these people coming from? I mean, I know it was out there, but the voice, people actually speaking up, and
Yes.
that helps to empower those that have lost hope.
That's right.
Right.
It's so important. It's so important. The women have to find their voice and give voice to the voiceless.
Right.
And I feel like that's part of my job, is to empower women, to let them know that they're not alone. They're not different. Like, this is the one thing I've found, and I think when I went through MITT, it was I did a lot of work on myself a few years ago when I was having a hard time. And one of the things I learned was that my story was your story.
Right.
This is what I got so clear on. We were there for 5 days, and it was a tough 5 days. But that's what I came away. My story is your story. And when I speak up for both of us. And you'll go, oh, wow, me too.
Yeah.
And then you speak up. That gives you the empowerment to speak up for someone else. And they go, oh, my, I'm just like that too. We see that black, white, whatever, Asian, whatever we are, we have the same story.
It is, and I just get chills when you said that, but it is so true. Everyone's story really isn't that different, but it's where we feel where we feel isolated, like we're the only ones.
That's
and
right.
we're embarrassed to say anything, a fear of judgment, fears of rejection, and people would like look down upon us, how could you be so stupid type of things, and
Right.
I mean, the crazy thoughts that go through your head. And it's like every single one of us have been there at
That's right.
some point in our life
At some
that
point.
we've had these crazy talk within that brain that just like threw us into the abyss,
That's right.
right? And
Yeah.
so being able to have that voice, and the more women that just express their voice, and that was one of the reasons why I started this show too, was to give women. I've had a few men on the show. I'm not adhere to not to have,
Yeah.
but more women have stepped up to the plate. But to be able to talk about how they went from point A to point B, and then kept on going, and why they didn't give up, and where that support come, and to be able to have these groups together now. I mean, we're seeing in social media these huge, massive groups where there's thousands and
Yes.
thousands of women in them, right? that are
Yes.
there to support each other. So,
That's right.
and to me, I think that has been the greatest detriment in our society, with women of violence, abuse and stuff,
Yeah.
that they didn't know where to go. They didn't know
That's
what
right.
to do, and it's like, okay, there was someone there that helped them get out of it, but now they're out of it and they don't know what to do because it's not something that just happens instantaneous. It's
Right.
subtle. It's very subtle. And then you start making excuses for it and everything else. You blame yourself, and all of a sudden you're in so deep that you
Mm-hmm.
can't see above, the lava line, shall we say, right? Because you're so
Yes.
stuck in it, but you have this burning desire to get out. But then once you're out, there's nobody there to help you, you know, go where you want to go because you don't know where you want to go because it's been
Right.
so destructive for so long. But
Right.
it's, when you look at an abuser has been abused.
Yes.
And that's the chain. So now is the time to say, wait, the buck stops here.
It
So
stops.
it has to, because if it doesn't, it's going to keep on going from one generation to another again. So that's the power of speaking up and having that voice, right?
Right.
And joining together. There are places, tons of places. Where do you go? Where do you go? Go to a church. It doesn't matter whether you believe in God or not. Go out and reach for help. The hardest thing that I found when I started my journey was to ask for help, and sometimes it's still a little tough for me to ask for help.
Yeah. Well, I think a
Yeah.
lot of women have that problem. It's like we somehow think that we have to do everything.
Right?
We're responsible. You know what's interesting? My mother-in-law, not because I've been married more than once. So one of my mother-in-laws.
I like that. One of my mother-in-laws.
My
Okay.
mother-in-law said, and there's a lot of truth in what she said. But she said, women have to do everything. She says this to me. She
Uh-huh.
says, just get over it. Women have to do everything. And I remember her saying this, and I'm thinking, I was exhausted at her
Right.
saying this, right? But, and I took it on, right? So there is some truth to the fact that women have to know how to do everything. They need to do, sometimes they have to be the man and the female,
Right.
but it's not really up to one woman to be the male and the female, right?
Right.
But sometimes she has to do what she has to do. She has to take care of what she has to take care of. But I think it's also a detriment to her if she tries to do everything,
Right.
right? And I think a lot of women find themselves in that space where they feel like, I really am responsible for everything, and I have to do everything for him and me. I have to be the emotional anchor for him and me. Nobody's going to be there for me, but I have to be there for everyone else.
Right.
I was in that situation before.
Yeah, I
And
think a lot of the audience can relate to that because I know
yeah,
I can relate to that. I mean, even losing my identity, 4 years, I had totally lost identity of everything that I knew myself to be,
yeah,
and I wasn't where I was supposed to be at that time, and I found
yeah.
myself with 3 young children. I'm like, this is it. This isn't the way life is supposed to be.
No, it isn't.
And it's like, this is back in the 70s, and I'm telling you, back in the 70s in the Midwest, there was nothing even remotely close to what there is here today. I mean, you can't even imagine what it was, and so it's really getting into the internalness of who you are and listening to that higher
That's right.
consciousness, and not even knowing that was even in existence at the time.
Right. That's right.
So but there was a drive, and I think every single human has that drive, and when
Hmm.
you begin to tap into that, and I have to say, my children were my driving force,
Yeah.
right? Because if I wasn't doing it for myself, I was doing it for them, and
Yes.
and
Yes.
sometimes we need that. But it's going out there and never give up, never give up. I
Never give
mean,
up.
there are days and you're going to get down. Well, you know what? Get down, play the victim, play the martyr, whatever it is, explode, blow up, have your meltdown.
And then get back up.
That's right, and just say, screw it. It ain't no fun being down here, right?
No.
Yeah, and then you pick yourself back up and you go again. But don't deny yourself.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, don't deny yourself a down day. It's okay.
You know what? I'm glad you brought that up, Beverly, because I have always been one of these people who are always looking for the the solution. I'm very solution oriented. So sometimes I have in the past denied myself the time to feel stuff.
Right.
Right? Good or bad. Like deny it. Like, okay, you don't have time to feel sad. You may never have heard this saying, but being an African American woman, I have definitely heard this. Black people ain't got time to be crazy. This is a funny thing that they would say. My mom.
Okay, no, I can't say I heard it quite that way.
No, my mom used to say, Black people ain't got time to be crazy. We got stuff to do. That's what my mom would say. And this was kind of their justification for not seeking mental help if they need mental health professionals, kind of thing. And because, it's still not very popular for Black people to seek out mental health professionals like psychiatrists and therapy. And my mom used to say, well, that's because Black people ain't got time to be crazy. We got shit to do.
Well, okay.
The problem with that is that sometimes we need to seek some professionals. We need to stop and work on ourselves. A lot of times we do. Sometimes we need to actually feel the pain. Strong woman is not
it's not painless.
A good thing.
Yeah.
No.
Because
a lot of times you hide behind, I'm a strong woman, and you'll be killing yourself under stress and anxiety because you are not acknowledging that this is a stressful situation,
Right.
So you have to learn how to stop and feel, good and bad. You need to stop and realize if you are anxious or stressed, and seek someone that you need to help you, right? You need to stop and realize that you need help and ask for it, because you're not Superwoman. Even though I actually use this a lot, Superwoman, I always say, hey, there's Superwomen. The reason why I say it's kind of a thing. All of us think we're Superwomen, and because we can do anything and everything. Right.
Because we have to do it all, right? You said that.
We have to do it all, just like I said. Well, that's because this one woman told me, she used to always call me Superwoman. And I was like, I'm tired. I know you think I'm a Superwoman, but I'm really tired, And I'm telling all these Superwomen who feel that they have to do everything, you don't.
Right.
You do not take care of yourself. Yeah.
And that's key, and that's really a strong message that women really need to get, is to take care of themselves, because you're only as good to someone else as you are to yourself. Mm-hmm. Right? You can't give more out of yourself than what you give to yourself. So fill your cup up. And then when that cup overfloweth, you can share all that with the rest of people. So don't deplete yourself, and don't let others deplete you. You have these people that will just suck you dry of your energy, and they can do it
vampires.
So fast. Oh, exactly, and it happens. It happens, right? And I teach a lot of my clients about these psychic vampires, and I tell them, I said, you know what? When this person comes around you all the time, you know who they are, because when they leave, they're leaving all happy because they just unloaded and they just sucked you dry of all your energy and everything.
You're exhausted.
And you're like, thank God they're gone, right? It is like you don't want them to come over yet. It's like, oh my gosh, it's like, especially if they're family or something.
Oh my goodness.
But when you know that they're coming over, how you can protect yourself, and when you understand that energy field, and you just talk to your energy field, you can bring your energy field very, very close to yourself, so they can't get in it, right? And every time when they're there, and as they continue to talk, you tell yourself, I'm a sounding board, not a sponge. I'm a sounding board, not a sponge. I'm a sounding board, not a sponge. And
Right.
they can't absorb anything away from you because it comes and it bounces back. And
That's
I
right.
will guarantee you, I'll stake my life on it.
You'll feel
That's
way
how
better now.
confident I am, right? That what's going to happen is after about 10 minutes, they're going to say, "Are you feeling okay?" And you're going to say, "Yeah, I feel great." Why? I said, "Oh, you just don't feel like yourself. Something's different."
Right.
Well, I've got a lot of stuff going on. Well, in that case, they leave because they can't get their
They can't get it.
fix.
Yeah.
And then you're saying, "Thank God they're gone." And you can get back, and you're not exhausted. But it really does work. It really
Yeah,
does
that's
work
awesome.
when you do that because you protect yourself from
Yeah.
them getting in there and just sucking that energy away from you. And it's a very simple process.
That's so good.
Yeah.
That's so good.
Yeah. So, but it works.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, what got you started actually in everything that you're doing, other than you wanted out of corporate and you wanted to be that freedom with the entrepreneur, but the direction that you went,
Yeah.
why
That's a
did you
good
choose
question.
that direction?
It's a good question. Yeah, I'm almost 50. And so when I was a young person, my parents are entrepreneurs. I'm watching entrepreneurship and I'm watching this go down. And when you go to school for marketing, that's really a business degree. So I'm learning about business. And I took a lot of courses around business. Then I went into operations. I went to marketing first and then operations. So I learned a lot about P&Ls and business and really trying to understand how to build a business as a
Right?
small business owner. So I always wanted to be a successful business owner. And I always felt like people who go into business, they want to be a success. My dad brought up the check. He used to often bring checks home, like $20,000. And I thought, man, I want to bring home a check that's $20,000. That's what I felt like. That was my goal. $20,000 a month. That's something I want to do. So when I was not able to do it, so I started off in investment, buying property, um, filling it with having a property manager, filling it with tenants. I did that and made a lot of money, made 250,000, went from zero to 250,000 in a year. I was really excited for myself. Then the economy hit, crashed and burned, and it was terrible, right? Then I
Right.
turned back around and became a coach. I love coaching, but I couldn't figure out how to make a go of it. A lot of people around me were making a lot of money coaching, and I just couldn't figure it out. So here I am in business and not able to be successful in business. I'm seeing success, but it's just eluding me.
Right.
So when and all along, my hobby was writing. And I didn't think you could make any money from writing. Matter of fact, when I went to college as an English major first, my professor said, don't become an English major. Writers are broke. That's what he told me my
Oh,
freshman year
wow.
in college. Yeah. So I changed the marketing. It worked out. So here I am writing my whole life, writing as a hobby. Did not think that was going to be the thing that gets me my $20,000 a month paycheck the way I want it. I didn't think that was going to get me to six figures. I didn't think because writers are broke,
Right.
right? My mom passed away in 2016. Now, all my life, my mom has been my biggest cheerleader. And something happened when she passed away. Something shifted hard. And I've been writing, and I never wanted to publish because I didn't think I was good enough. But something shifted hard. And my mom, I believe, after she passed, was on me like you won't believe.
Right.
She was telling me, you have to publish. She was on me. She wouldn't let go. Right. And I had the strongest urge that I couldn't do anything else. And I did exactly what she told me to do. I got a coach, and as scared as I was, I got published. And through that whole process, I had aha moment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I learned my message. I said, oh, wow. Now I know why I wasn't successful all those years. Is because I didn't know my message. Sometimes people call it their why,
Right.
right? But your message, what you've been put on this planet to say. And so then the first thing I did was start working with people to help them to write their book,
Mm-hmm.
right? So people would mistake me for a writing coach. I am not a writing coach. I am not a publisher, even though I publish your book, all that kind of stuff. What I'm trying to do is help you be successful in your business is what I'm really trying to do. I'm using books, right? So then as I'm working with all these clients and as I'm going through the process of getting them published and going through this whole thing, some things kept opening up for me. I didn't want to work with people on their memoirs. I just wanted to work with entrepreneurs. It got clearer. I want to work with them. What's going to take them from their message to their payday?
Right.
And as I kept looking at that, oh my goodness, it got clearer and clearer. And that's when I came up with my 5-step program, which is trademarked now. But my 5-step program for getting them to be monetized. They don't have to use a book. I just happen to like books because it has so many more pathways, right? But yeah, it just kind of slowly but surely, I just kept watching and seeing, because ultimately that's really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help. There's a lot of 5-figure coaches out here. There's a lot of people out here struggling. There's a lot of people out here who don't know. They're watching people do courses and books. They're watching all these things and they're just repeating what they see, and they don't know that there's a whole system behind it that they're missed. And then they go, books don't work, courses don't work.
I've said some of those same things myself, but it's like, no, that's not true, because I know they work, because I see them work. And I've probably been a product of a lot of the audience out here, is where you reach out, someone's made it and they had this course, and they put it out there and they say, and I've gotten taken a couple of times. So it makes you gun shy, because they promise you all of this and deliver
little. That's the most frustrating thing in the world. I know.
Yeah. So you really have to step back and say, okay, who are you going to trust to go where? Right.
That's right.
And again, look at the outcome. And the first time I spoke with you and we shared different things that we're doing, and then we just caught up again here a couple of weeks ago, there was something about how you perform, what you say, and the depth of the truth of what you deliver, that this isn't a promise, this is a guarantee.
It's a guarantee. Here's another thing that I guarantee. My goal, I should say, it's my personal goal. And I'll put another piece. It will be guaranteed if you do what I tell you, I explain to you to do. Some people just don't, so they can't get it.
Well, if you don't do the process, you can't expect the outcome, right?
That's right. But if you do what I show you, my goal is for the amount of money you put into work with me, I'll guarantee 3 times back in return. Now, most coaches don't do that. Right. You put money into a hole and it just goes away. That's not my goal. My goal is to help you build your business and make money. So if you give me money, how I came to this is because my very first course that I bought, my very first, oh my gosh, I had to spend this much money on a course, was $2,000. And I was so nervous, and I thought, oh my gosh, am I going to really? And I wasn't making that money yet. And that lady, her course, I learned enough to get a $10,000 client. I couldn't believe it. Her $2,000 course taught me how to get it. I thought, whoa. Another person I worked with, coach, I spent $16,997, okay, on a person, okay, a lot of money, and I was freaking nervous to put that much money into a coach.
Right.
Within 2.5 months, I made $18,000. So I go, that's what I want to be. I want to be that person. I want to be like, you give me your money, you get your money back in 2 months. And
and that's the sign of a good coach, of someone, when, and again, the only way you're going to get those results is to follow the instructions. All the information in the world isn't worth a dime if you don't put it into action.
That's right.
And again, like we talked earlier, when we first started here, is taking those action steps. If you don't do it, it's not going to happen.
That's right.
Right? Yeah, it's not going to do itself for you. So, Oh my gosh, Tam, we could just go on and on here. This has been so spectacular, so informative. So how can the audience reach you if they would like to be a part of your classes? Because I know you have them ongoing every so many months. Where can they reach you?
Okay, so you can go to tamrluc.com. That's TAMRLUC.com. That's my website. Also, the program that I'm working on, which is a book program, a book strategy program, is called Boss Up Bestseller. BOSSUP bestseller.com. So bossupbestseller.com. And you can find me, of course, on Facebook, Tamar Luc, or Women with Vision International, as well as Instagram.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here. And now it's time to say, go out there, be that best you that you can be, because Tam and I are going to be the best we that we can be. So we'll see you all in the next show. Thank you for joining us.
Bye.
Okay, can you still hear me? Okay. I believe I've got the mics off. I'll double check it. If not, I'll just cut the extra off and stick it back on again. But I know you got another place that you got to be. But thank you so much for being on here today. I really enjoyed our conversation and a lot of great information. So, all right. You too.